Another fantastic year filled with incredible video games. Now, there's a couple I haven't played that you may be expecting to see on here. Games like God of War Ragnarok or Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Games like that you won't see because I haven't played them, and I'm not going to insult you by pretending that I did. So with that in mind, these are my top 10 games of 2022. Look, I'm clearly a retro gamer, and nostalgia works on me. Everything about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge checks every box that I would be looking for. Turtles in Time is undoubtedly one of the best beat-em-ups of all time, and one of the best SNES games, and Shredder's Revenge plays like a modernized version of that. Crisp controls, hitboxes to perfection, and being an absolute tribute to the Turtles of the 80s from the art style and animations. It wasn't just like I got to play through an all-new TMNT game that I remember from my childhood. It was like I got to play with all my Ninja Turtle toys again. It's been a long time since I've gotten to play an amazing 4-player cooperative game. And this one is 6-player. It's more than just a love letter to the Ninja Turtles. It's also a reminder of how fun simple concepts like beat-em-ups can be when done this well. The only thing I could have wished for was more. I wanted more stages, more challenge modes, unlockable characters, more collectibles, or DLC for it. Or heck, a full-blown sequel. This one is probably most outside of my usual wheelhouse for games I like to play. Rumbleverse is a free-to-play battle royale on the Epic Games Store that is incredibly fun. It's inspired by pro wrestling, so there's lots of elbow drops, suplexes, and hitting people with a chair. Everyone starts with basic strikes and grapples, but they find a variety of new attacks from special move magazines lying around. It's a way of making sure each match plays out differently, since you never know what move pool you'll end up with as the circle gets smaller and smaller. Plus, every game, your stats can be different, as you drink different protein powders to improve them. You're able to permanently increase your health, attack, or stamina each round. This combines well with the different special moves, because sometimes you want big atomic punches and go for all damage, or sometimes you're spamming uppercuts and you need the extra stamina for it. What makes it so fun is that even though it's wrestling inspired, it plays out more like a fighting game. Rumbleverse is made by the exact same studio that made the fighting game Dive Kick, and it shows. Every different style of attack uses a priority system. If 2 attacks land at the same time, the one with higher priority lands. The game even makes it clear to you when this priority thing is happening. So like a fighting game, you're playing mind games, trying to not be predictable, reacting to different attacks with your own, and keeping priority in mind. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and the developers have been very receptive to fan feedback, which gives me very high hopes for the game. It's been my go-to for a chill night of gaming with the bros. And by chill, I mean screaming because that was bullshit! I totally got him first! Very few sequels end up being worth an almost decade-long wait. But Rogue Legacy 2 is. Rogue Legacy was the original roguelite, allowing you to spend your gold for permanent upgrades instead of losing everything on each death. Rogue Legacy 2 still has you picking a new, randomly generated hero at the start of each run, only now with so much more. There's more classes available, and they're all unique with their own weapons, skills, and ways of scoring critical hits. If I had to pick some favorites, I love the Valkyrie, the Dragon Lancer, and the Boxer. Each one of these classes and runs can be super customized by purchasing new upgrades, crafting and equipping different armors and weapons, changing out the runes you have equipped for special attributes. There's a daunting amount of unlocks and options. But what made Rogue Legacy 2 so enjoyable for me was just how fantastic the platforming is. It is so precise, so clean, fine-tuned to perfection in every level of the castle. Air dashes, bouncing off of enemies and hazards, using all techniques available to make progress or find secrets. This same platforming shows up when facing off against every impressive boss fight. Each one is as much of a puzzle as it is a skill-based showdown. It's one of the few games this year that, when I finished, I was only upset that there wasn't more. Even though it encourages New Game Plus runs, all I wanted was more areas to fight through and more bosses to take down. I absolutely loved every second of my playtime with it. It's not often you have a really good Final Fantasy spin-off, and it's even rarer when you can make it better. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a remaster of the PSP original, and it's a prequel to the events of the original Final Fantasy VII, all about Zack. I want to emphasize that it's a remaster. Every single scene is essentially shot for shot, complete with sometimes stiff animations and awkward dialogue exchanges. It is the PSP game through and through. only now with way better character models, more voice acting, and much better scenery. This also means that the story is exactly the same. It is not altered or changed to fit into the narrative of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is fine with me because Crisis Core was so fun to play already. It was one of the best PSP games, and they fine-tuned the gameplay to be even better. More attack options, a new buster stance, camera control, even just having more buttons you can map materia to goes a long way. It also retains the mission-based structure, so it's easy to do some pick-up and quick play sessions to get some new items and rewards. I had forgotten how enjoyable Crisis Core was when it first came out, and it's refreshing to see that it still is. I was worried that the handheld condensed gameplay would make it show its age, but no, it's still fun. And let's be honest, the most enjoyable part of the whole thing is getting to spend hours and hours with our favorite lovable himbo, Zack. Has anyone not heard of Vampire Survivors at this point? How do you even describe the gameplay? An auto roguelite? An auto horde survival? I don't even really know what to call it. Vampire Survivors, which is not shy about its Castlevania inspirations, has you play as a vampire slaying hero. You can freely move around on a massive, never-ending map, and that's all you really need to do. Survive. Your character will automatically attack. You just need to move. You're constantly getting experience points, and leveling up allows you to improve your weapons or acquire additional ones. It basically comes down to creating the best build you can hopefully get. You'll start running around scrounging for every little advantage you can get, but if it goes well, you can get yourself to the point where you don't even need to move to annihilate everything around you. It's Vampire Survivors' addictive quality that makes me keep coming back to it. You aren't supposed to survive for longer than 30 minutes at a time, because that's when death comes to end your run. But if you do it right, you can keep going. And upon every death, you can spend your gold on more upgrades, unlock more characters, and get that itch of, you know what? I want to give it one more go. The game only costs $5, so it's an easy recommendation to anyone and everyone. Plus, I'll never get sick of that hype jingle whenever you open up a treasure chest. This one easily surprised me the most. Potionomics is many games in one, and they all work together in perfect harmony. You play as a woman who inherits a run-down potion shop, and it's up to you to make magical potions for local adventurers to use on their quests. They'll sometimes have specific things they'll need, like elemental resistances, poison cures, or more hit points. You play this addictive potion crafting minigame where you toss ingredients into your cauldron, perfectly balancing the ingredients in each to get the potion you want. You get tons of experimenting, discovery, and min-maxing your reagents to get maximum results to make the most money. It's also a dating sim. All those adventurers, shop owners, and even some dastardly rivals you meet, they're all romance options. You only have so much time in the day, so you have to prioritize making potions and money or finding someone cute to smooch. These relationships matter as they can also get you additional bonuses, and when a few of them are the adventurers you're making potions for, they'll be able to acquire ingredients for you if you help prepare them well. And it's also a deck building card game. When you sell a potion, you go into a card game, playing different cards to haggle the price of your potion. It also means balancing stress, the customer's scathing remarks, and certain card combos to pop off the potion's price for maximum profit. This ties back to the dating sim part too, as every single person you build a relationship with will also give you new cards to use in your deck, and each one of them has a very distinct negotiating style in their cards. It's so incredibly well written, actually funny, genuinely sweet moments with some of the NPCs, and the animations! I love the character designs, and the way they move and show expressions are so excellent. These wouldn't look too out of place in a Pixar movie. I was amazed at how much this game charmed me. If you enjoy business module games, or dating sims, or even card games, give a look at Potionomics. I don't think enough people know what this game is actually about. I've heard some people describe Tunic as many things. A top-down Zelda clone, a Dark Souls-inspired adventure game, and to be fair, both of those things are accurate. There's a lot of puzzle solving and Zelda-like swordplay, but there's also some combat closer to a Souls game, with dodge rolling, and even using an Estus Flask-like system. It's simple on its surface, complex and intricate under the hood. There are so many secrets to find, with tons of hidden passages throughout the interconnected world, unlocking shortcuts to previous areas to re-explore for later. All of this through a story that is up to you to decipher, as there is no real dialogue and the language is in wingdings. But nah, that's not what the spirit of Tunic is about. You remember playing a game as a kid, not knowing what any of the buttons did? Or you're playing and you pick up an all-new item and you're like, oh yeah, sick! Now what the fuck does that do again? So you pick up the instruction manual and pore over the pages to figure out what you're supposed to do with that thing? That is what Tunic is all about. That feeling of using the manual of gaming's past to beat the game. As you play, you're finding pages of the manual. It still isn't in English, but it teaches you new mechanics that you didn't know that you could do. The map gives hints about more secret passages. It even comes with extra handwritten notes in the virtual manual to give you more clues on how to progress. It's such a cool, meta way to play through an adventure game, and it's built into the game itself. It's not a game made for fans of Zelda or Dark Souls or whatever. It's a game made for people who miss that feeling of being a kid, not having internet access, and using every material available to beat the game before you. It's a feeling I've missed, and I'm so thankful that Tunic recreated it so faithfully. Man, when isn't Kirby a good time? Kirby and the Forgotten Lands is the best Kirby game I've played in a long time. They've somehow managed to perfectly translate all of his abilities, movements, and charm into a 3D environment, which isn't as easy as you would think. We all instantly love the more gimmicky things about it, like Car Kirby or Stairs Kirby or whatever, and those were fine. It's still just solid Kirby gameplay with familiar powers and some new ones, thanks to the ability to further enhance these powers. It gave so many options of ways of playing, from dispatching enemies to quickly killing bosses to even puzzle solving. It still has tons of secrets to find in every level and on the overworld. Even the levels themselves are characters, each offering something unique and expressive. A shopping mall, a horror funhouse, a horrific science lab. The fact that it can swing so wildly from colorful and cheery to something oddly sinister is testament to Kirby's design philosophy, because it never feels out of left field. It just is Kirby. And yeah, it absolutely has one of the coolest final bosses the series has had yet. I am by no means a Souls-born aficionado, but I'm pretty sure this is the best one of these games they've made yet. Elden Ring takes that design concept of figure it out and get good, kid, and completely removes all restraints from the player. The open world works perfectly for what they wanted to achieve. Immersion. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but it works here because you truly are just dropped into the world of Elden Ring and told nothing. Nothing is told to the player. You discover everything. You learn everything. You piece together the lore and the plot. Those that do feel incredibly rewarded for that time invested. Most impressively, the open world never gets dull. There's always a danger when you have too wide of an open space. Make it too large and it feels empty and lifeless. Fill it with too much crap and it gets tiresome to traverse. Elden Ring has polished this balance to precision because it's dense. There are monsters roaming about, caves to find, hidden treasures tucked away. I can't even begin to tell you how often I gave myself an objective on the map, only end up somewhere completely different because I saw a glimpse of some other crumb of adventure and followed down that rabbit hole for hours. Though the world is incredibly dense, it is also incredibly big. Bigger than you imagine. I'll never forget that feeling when I realized that the world map I've been exploring and awestruck by isn't even half of the entire game. Gonna be honest, I still haven't beaten it. There's just too much to do, and I don't want to miss anything. Look, I love RPGs, and I love retro games. This should not come as a surprise to anyone. Live Alive is a fantastic RPG remade from the Super Nintendo era. The graphics are perfectly modernized, the music just as outstanding as it was before, the battle system as good as it was almost 30 years ago. To call it just an RPG is a misnomer because it's many genres mixed into it. There are 8 playable characters, and each one is in a different era of time with a different style of playing. One character has a story that plays out like Street Fighter. Another is about giant robot kaiju fights. The Wild West one has you preparing a town with traps and ambushes. Another one is secretly a horror game. Each story is only a handful of hours long, so none of them outstay their welcome and helps make the whole game feel digestible. Yet there's still a bunch of secret items, secret bosses, and special attacks to discover. Most importantly, yes, this game is a remake, which means there's a chance some people have already played through the Super Famicom original. If you have, then you absolutely must play this remake. There is more to the ending sequence than there ever was before, and it is so incredibly rewarding. I could not stop smiling during the entire end sequence. And that was for only one of the endings. If I had to recommend one RPG for people to play from this year, it's Live A Live. It's perfect for retro fans, modern RPG players, or even those new to the genre. It was never officially released in the West until this Switch version, and it deserved to be played by anyone with a passing interest in RPG games. It's that good, and easily my favorite game of 2022.